Yeah, let's do all you can eat sushi. Also, I have to let you know that recently when I've been eating too much, my rib hurts and it makes it hard for me to breathe.
And so you
And
succeed then.
and I didn't say, so like maybe let's not do this. I said, just want to let you know, it's going to get hard for me to breathe during lunch. And this was my idea. I'm not only signing on, but I would prefer this experience. This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional mental health advice, diagnosis, or therapy. Our full disclaimer can be found in the show notes. Enjoy the show. Welcome, everyone, to the Man Up Together podcast. My name is Alex Peskin, and I'm here with my lifelong friend and co-host, Bobby Jacobs. Bobby, today we've got a good episode, a lot of things to talk about, so we're going to jump right in here.
Let's do it.
How do you feel about being discovered by the manosphere?
Appreciate the fact that people are listening.
Yeah.
If it's the manosphere.
Or engaging. Whether they're listening or not, they're engaging.
Let's look at it this way. This is an opportunity for engagement and conversation. So let's tell the people what we're talking about.
Yes. So here's what we're talking about. As you all know, there are a few different ways to find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube. The fun part of YouTube is that people who use YouTube can also find us and comment and engage with us. And this past week, we did an episode on apologizing, and we talked about why it might be challenging for some men to apologize. We talked about what some effective apologies can look like. Thought it was a really great conversation for us to have. And then after posting it, I realized that we're getting a lot of views on YouTube, and I'm wondering why. And I look, and it's because we started to get a few comments. Whether these comments were meant to try and poke, to be divisive, to start conversation, whatever it is, I would love to use them as a form for discourse. Because if it is something that someone might be open to listening to, talking about, I think we should be engaging in things that people are engaging in with us.
Yeah, I agree. We're willing to have that conversation. This isn't Alex and I saying, this is how you should do things. This is the right way to do things, period.
Yeah.
End of statement. This is an opportunity for us to explore how our individual backgrounds, how our experiences in life, how our personal perspectives on the world, which are not always 100% aligned, how they impact how we interact with the world around us.
Yeah, please share with us. So thank you for the people who
Absolutely.
did engage. The first person that commented wrote, "Why men struggle to apologize effectively. Are you joking? Have you ever heard a woman apologize because they do not apologize?"
I think this was a comment that it comes from a place of frustration with someone who hasn't apologized in the past, or somebody who believes they should have received an apology from a woman.
Which is fair.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, when I don't receive an apology that I think I'm due, I get frustrated. Whether man, woman, child, doesn't matter what it is, right? Yeah. Hey, where's that recognition, as we talked about last week? Where's that recognition that you may have done something that impacted me emotionally? If that's where the question's coming from, it's a completely legitimate place. It's a completely legitimate conversation. First thoughts for me were those. And what do you got?
Yeah, I like what you're talking about, because you're talking directly about this. There's something broader coming for me, and I actually want to read the second comment as well, because I think it will maybe tie together my thoughts.
They are related.
Yeah, the second one is, I miss the days when men didn't have to apologize for everything they do.
Yeah.
And the reason I wanted to share that one before I talked about this a little bit, because I think the thing that feels like it connects both of them is the focus is on, why are we talking about this thing that men need to do when there's, it feels like blaming.
Sure.
Right. It feels like we shouldn't have to apologize because it's someone else's fault for having something wrong with what we do, or having something wrong with everything that we do. At this person road, we have to apologize for everything they do. It makes me think about the point of sending things out that might be divisive is to get people to respond, react, maybe get people to be uncomfortable. And I'm noticing the focus in is blaming why us when something else, versus being able to say, I'm not saying any of their experiences are untrue. Even if that is also true, getting good at understanding ourselves still matters. Getting good at understanding why it might be hard to apologize, or what it might be like to know how to apologize more effectively. I don't think that has to be connected to, well, do other people do it well too? That's one of my least favorite excuses. Well, they didn't do it either. Right. It's like, we're talking about the impact you had on somebody else. Sure. there was another experience and an impact had on you as well. They both matter.
Absolutely. One of the things that we talked about last week with apologies was this concept that when you apologize, you're showing weakness. If you have in your mind that through an apology, you're showing weakness, those things obviously don't jive. I can't show weakness, therefore I can't apologize, or I can't show weakness,
Yeah.
therefore I shouldn't be required to apologize. And if we go back to that manosphere concept where women were looked at as lower in social order, social hierarchy, or
So what are we doing apologizing to these?
right.
Yeah.
And so to think about apologies as not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of recognition, it's a sign of internal and external recognition. I want to continue this conversation. Apologies don't have to be something that takes something away from
Yeah.
you, that you're giving up a piece of yourself in order to make that apology.
So just to make sure we are super consistent with our message, consistent, repetitive, whatever it
However you want to
is,
call it.
you're talking about this. What if it's weakness? What if it's weakness? It is vulnerability.
Right.
This is, again, men showing vulnerability, even in the title of the episode. If someone didn't listen through the entire episode, but just was on YouTube and saw the title of it and said, oh, that's making something come up for me. Maybe I want to comment because now I'm feeling uncomfortable. You're bringing up something that involves male vulnerability. There's these two men who are talking about needing to apologize.
Yeah.
If it's uncomfortable to someone to apologize, and they're now seeing a message that like these men are saying I should get better at apologizing. Now I actually feel kind of insecure.
Yeah.
And male vulnerability is bringing up their feelings. And so that's where I think what you're saying is actually so important. The point is vulnerability looks like weakness and is the path toward quite a bit of strength in who we are and what our relationships can look like.
And I want to bring up one more thing. That second comment you read about why I want to go back to a
Remember
time
when?
where
Yeah.
men didn't have to apologize for everything. And what I would urge you to do is if that's a mindset that you have, whether it be all the way black and white of we always have to apologize or we never have to apologize, is to think about maybe why do you feel that way? Or
Yeah, I like that you're bringing that up too, because that was specifically something we talked about last episode. Specifically something I talked about struggling with early on, where if I had to find a very severe way of saying that, I think I could use that. I feel like I have to apologize for everything. That was a feeling I had. The way to not have conflict, the way to make sure everything is okay. We talked about short-term okay.
Yeah, short term.
Was to apologize for everything. What we explored last time was I shouldn't have apologized for everything. I shouldn't have thought I had to apologize for everything, not necessarily because I'm giving up or losing power,
Sure.
but it's because that's not even the right way to engage in a
Right.
relationship
You
where
had
things
that
do go wrong.
short term gain, but what's that long term pain actually look like?
Yeah.
And what are you gaining there? Yeah.
This is good. Everybody keep engaging with us. Send us some comments on YouTube. We'd be glad to continue talking. Also, if you just want to throw some comments out there on YouTube, because apparently it gets people to see our
Engaged.
episode more, which means we get to reach more people. You should definitely do that as well. That would be really helpful. But thank you to these people. Today, we're going to move on from here in a similar structure that we usually do. We're going to start with some why do men like this? We've got a deep dive topic. We're going to talk about fitness and health. And then we're going to end with a slight variation of our new ending segment, and we'll be good to go.
All right, let's get into it.
So let's jump into it. Today, for
Why do I like this?
we are going to talk about something that feels very on topic with what's going on in my life right now. We're going to talk about eating massive amounts of food. Why do men like eating massive amounts of food? Lots of men, not all men. Why do they like it, or why do they do it even if they don't like it? But there is something in our masculine culture that says eat a lot of food. We had a meeting this week and you said, hey, should we go out to poke?
Yeah.
And the first thought in my mind was poke. Raw fish. Ooh, right across the street is an all-you-can-eat sushi restaurant. I'm going to offer that we go do that instead.
Can we take one step? You said all you can eat. I want to talk about just that phrase.
All you can eat.
All you can eat. At base level, it's the most easy to define statement. It's all you can eat. It's not all you should eat. It's not all you want to eat. It's all you can eat physically,
Uh-huh.
mentally. I think
Yeah.
those are two different parts of the conversation. But yeah, we went out for all you can eat sushi. And what I would say is I know that I succeeded and I ate all that I
Same.
could eat at that
Same.
point.
And I have always been someone who has a very, very large appetite, especially compared to my body size. I've always liked to compete with people who are bigger than me because they underestimated the way that I could take them on. But something is happening to me in my older age here. So I didn't say, no, yeah, poke sounds like a good idea. Let's just
Right.
do that. I said, yeah, let's do all you can eat sushi. Also, I have to let you know that recently when I've been eating too much, my rib hurts and it makes it hard for me to breathe.
And so you
And
succeed then.
and I didn't say, so maybe let's not do this. I said, just want to let you know, it's going to get hard for me to breathe during lunch. And this was my idea. I'm not only signing on, but I would prefer this experience. And so it's an interesting, all you can eat, no matter the consequences, basically.
We should also take this back just one step. We've been doing all you can eat for a while. We've known each other for a bit. I know we did all you can eat Indian food in Gainesville while we were in college. Even before that, we did all you can eat pizza at Cece's Pizza. I had a lot of Cece's Pizza.
Yeah.
I mean, and I remember one of the call it cool things, right? Is you collect your plates and those stacks of plates would get higher and higher and higher. And I don't know that I could do the damage that I did at Cece's Pizza today that I did when we were growing up and a little bit younger.
The good old days.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah. Cece's, I love Cece's too, though, because it was it $2.99 or
oh my God,
$3.99?
It was incredibly
It wasn't more
expensive.
than that.
Yeah.
And in college, like that.
Right. That was the plate. That was the way to do it. Yeah.
So knowing we were going to talk about this, I wanted to get a little bit more
science
understanding of it, a little bit more science. Why do men like this? And I found an article that was talking about the social and cultural reasons as well as biological. We'll get to those, but there's this dominance aspect, this showing that you're healthy and dominant. And the Evolutionary Psychological Science Journal published a study that said they followed men who were eating just with other men and men who were eating in the presence of women.
Okay.
And they were eating pizza and salad. And they said men who were eating with women ate 93% more pizza when they were with women than when it was just men. Almost twice as much pizza. Right. And it also said they ate a lot more salad too. It was the 80 something percent more. And so there's something about being in front of the opposite sex, assuming this is heterosexual men who are attracted to women and with women who they are assuming might
vice versa
be attracted to men, that there's this look how dominant and strong and
I think it's interesting. If you would have asked me and I just would have not put my thinking cap on, I would have almost said, oh, it's probably less. I don't want to look like I'm gorging myself. I want to make sure my pants still fit. And again, there's a lot of, there's so many nuances to this. I know that maybe when I first met my wife, I wanted to make sure that I didn't look like the crazy eating machine that I could be. And versus now where, man, she knows me for every part of me. It's interesting just to see that. And I love that studies like this are conducted. So it's an interesting observation and a finding from that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think I would have guessed, if I had to guess, they would eat 50% less pizza, 50% more salad.
Yeah.
100% more pizza, 80% more
Look at
salad.
me. I'm eating the healthy stuff. I'm not, I'm not going to leave my broccoli because that makes me look healthier. So I got a fun story. Growing up, we lived in Florida, so we went down to the Keys, and one of my favorite restaurants was with one of my cousins. We went to a restaurant called Half Shell Raw Bar. It's one of my favorite places in the Keys. Great seafood, and they had an all-you-can-eat seafood bar going on. And I remember that we were asked kindly that maybe we would want to go to a different establishment as we were consuming more and more and more. And listen, rightly so. We ate all we could eat. We ate all we were entitled to eat, I would say, for the amount of money that we spent. But I think it got to the point where neither one of us wanted maybe to continue eating, but it was, I'm going to show you up. I'm going to eat one more plate of shrimp or one more plate of crab legs. I think it goes back to that psychological aspect of competitive nature I'm going to just keep eating because I don't want to show that I'm weaker than the other person here. I'm just going to keep on doing it and doing it. it's going to wreak havoc on my body later on that evening. But something about it for sure.
Yeah. So, talking more about the why, there is also a connection to biology for this. We're talking about why this is something men do maybe more than women traditionally. Some of it is men have more
Absolutely.
muscle mass just biologically, and therefore their metabolisms are a little bit faster.
Yep.
It starts there. And I think then culture kind of picks things up, right?
Yep.
Men might necessarily need to eat a little bit more, but then there's the idea of why do men also take bigger bites and eat faster and more violently eat?
Absolutely.
Maybe there's a violent nature to us biologically as well.
No, I think the biology part is 100% true. It documented across species. The male is going to consume more. There have been studies done in horses, other species as well, where especially in young growing animals, the male side of the equation will consume more because they have a higher requirement for nutrition, right? That increased muscle mass, as you talked about before, requires increased protein input in order to build that muscle mass. All of that requires increased calories in order to utilize that. But I absolutely agree with you that there is for sure a biological need. Now, does it persist across every single stage of life, every single stage of development, and every single meal? Probably not, right?
I like that you bring that up. I remember because I had such a fast metabolism and it took a lot for me to get full. I remember needing to find calories. And when I would find calories, I would stockpile the calories. I remember, especially in college, when financially the burden of if I'm going to eat was on myself, I would. CC's was a really great way to
Cost per
fill
calorie.
up. Exactly. And I would know that if I'm sitting down and if there's a bread basket at dinner,
I'm gonna eat it.
keep rolling
Right.
because this is going to help me get to whatever calories my body thinks that it needs.
Yeah.
And I think a little bit of anxiety came for me there as well, wanting to make sure that I could provide for myself and could provide for my body. But I think my metabolism has slowed down. But I still have that habit of, okay, if I'm out with other people and there's a lot of extra food, do I think I could fit that in? Because I don't know what my next meal is going to be. That's not true anymore.
Yeah.
But it still kind of like sits in my bones a little bit.
As a nutritionist, I get the question a lot of, will my horse self-regulate their intake? People have observations sometimes of my horse is out licking the tree or they're chewing on the tree. Does that mean they have a fiber requirement? And there's been a lot of studies that have been done that have shown that horses specifically, they're not going to modulate their caloric intake based on their needs. They will continue to consume calories because it's enjoyable to consume calories, right? And I think that humans, we have obviously a more advanced understanding of what our nutritional requirements are. But I would say that the individual person does not typically modulate their daily nutritional intake simply based off of what their nutritional requirements at the time are.
Right. And that some of that is connected to history and survival as well. Until recently is a relative term, but until recently, the last several hundred years, it wasn't as easy to find a meal 3 times a day.
Yeah. And to be clear, the food security that we experience in this country, I think is drastically different from maybe what other people experience around the world, right? And I think we should all be thankful. And if we are in situations where we can help those who are food insecure, I think that's an important part of this. But like you're saying, we are not out having to hunt and gather our food anymore for the most part. Now, going to Costco on a Saturday may feel like hunting and gathering.
But you could go to Costco Sunday also.
Exactly, right?
You don't we brought in the big haul doesn't mean we're not going to eat meat again for another month.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, from the why do men like this, I think there's other parts of this too. It's fun. I mean,
and it feels good.
Eating competitions can be fun, right? Yeah. We've, I think, enjoyed eating competitions. I have watched you in pie eating competitions at summer camp.
I also won a chicken wing eating contest in college. It was speed based, so it was how many can you eat in 1 minute. But I downed 15 chicken wings in 1 minute.
That's
so that was I was very maybe concerned and surprised, but also once it was cool.
We see what's 4th of July. You got the Nathan's hot dog eating competition.
I went to that once. It's gross.
Sounds disgusting. Just splash zone like a SeaWorld. You don't want to be too close. Societally, we embrace this. A couple years back, there was the gentleman from Japan. I don't remember what his name was, who was like winning all of these eating competitions. And I remember at one point they put him in competition against an animal. It might have been an elephant. It might have been, I don't remember what it was. But again, you're not eating 15 chicken wings in a minute to meet a nutrient requirement, right? I mean, I think you'll hit them pretty quick then. But you're doing that for enjoyment. You're doing that because it's fun. It's enjoyable to laugh and joke and go puke later. see what chicken wings taste like on the way out, right? There's a place near the camp where they used to have a competition called the Belly Bomb or something.
Yeah, Cupboard Cafe.
Yeah, Cupboard Cafe. And it's a lot of ice cream, essentially, is what it is. And I remember whether it was you or somebody else told me that the ice cream, when they threw it up,
sounds gross.
It was still cold when it came back up, which just made it that much worse. I bring this up for no good reason outside of
this is what men do.
It's fun. So why would this be a good thing? Why is eating a lot a good thing?
So we went with the why.
Yeah.
Why could this be good?
Yeah.
It's good to provide for your body's nutritional needs.
There we go.
Sometimes you do need to eat a lot. They're not under eating.
They're not under eating.
Yeah. I'm working hard here to try and figure out why it could be really good, but it is fun.
It's fun.
It's fun to compete in any ways that our bodies decide are good ways to compete. So sure, that could be good, but also why is it maybe not always good? Could be a good question to answer.
I think the word moderation is the easy one to come in here from a nutritional perspective. If you exceed your caloric requirement on a regular basis and you don't exceed your caloric expenditure, or at least those two things aren't balanced, right? More calories in, less calories out, oftentimes increases your body's adiposity, the fat deposition in your body, which, hey, we know scientifically that that's not necessarily the greatest thing. Food competitions, eating competitions oftentimes aren't, let's see who can eat the most broccoli.
That's really interesting. I didn't think about that for 1 second, but that makes me think we have another why do men like this in here. Maybe we can compare foods that are traditionally more male to foods that are, I guess we did that a little bit with meat. Our first one, I think, was why do men like meat? I actually remember when we were planning for that, one of the questions I wanted to ask is how many hot dogs do you think you can eat? But we took that out in the planning, but maybe now
we can bring that back.
That's a good one to talk about in this, but whether it's men like them more and eat them more or not,
right?
Culture tells us these are the man foods and these are the women foods sometimes. And so, I like that you brought that up. That's interesting. There are not a lot of celery eating competitions, but also even thinking about why this is maybe not so good, even just thinking about my own experience, I created a habit that I don't need anymore and it's hard to break habits. Also, my body is telling me, hey, there's something going on with the way that your ribs and your lungs are with each other, that when your stomach expands too much, it makes it hard to breathe. And I don't do anything about that. I don't
listen. Our bodies give us a lot of signs to stop doing the stupid things, right?
Yeah.
Pain is nature's way of telling you, hey, dum-dum, quit it.
Yeah, why do we not touch fire again? Because it hurt the first time.
Exactly.
Why do we keep going to all-you-can-eat sushi? Because even though I can't breathe after, there's another thing. It's so satisfying about eating until your body can't anymore. But this was a fun one.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. It could be fun. It could be enjoyable. Why do we do it? A whole lot of reasons.
Why do men like this?
You got any other thoughts about why men might do this and why men might overeat excessively? Let us know. If you got any more why do men like this that you want to bring up, let us know. We've had a couple of suggestions thrown at us, so we're going to definitely incorporate those. So now we're going to connect this to something that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yes. So we talked about why do men eat massive amounts of food, and we've been trying to connect our why do men like this to our deep dive each time that we talk. So I figured something that could make sense with that is talking a little bit about fitness and how it connects to health.
I love it.
We're going to talk a little bit more in general, fitness and health, what they mean, how they connect. And then we're also going to talk about why sometimes it's challenging to be motivated or maintain fitness. And then we'll end by talking a little about some other benefits, even different than the traditional easy ones we can think about on the top of our head.
Right.
I think a great place for us to start is to talk about why fitness and health are connected, but not exactly the same thing.
Yeah, I agree. When I look at this and when I try to hierarchy it, if you will, I kind of think of health up top here, and then there's things that go into what makes somebody healthy or what detracts from your health, right?
Yeah.
For an individual person, that may mean something different between you and I. What does
Yeah.
healthy look like? So when I think of this, I put health over here, and I have physical fitness that leads up into health. We also have mental fitness, right, which we've talked about. I think all of those kind of ladder up into what health can look like, right? And so,
Right. And so it's interesting because you're saying what health looks like. And I
Mhm.
think what you're saying is what does health look like from a definitional
Yeah,
standpoint? Because health is this holistic experience. Fitness is one of them. Mental health is one of them. All these things are connected. But let's talk about it even more literally when you're saying what does health look like?
yeah,
Because I think that gets into some masculinity
sure.
ideas as well. When you look at someone, there are assumptions you make. There are lots of assumptions you make, but one of them is how healthy, strong,
Fit,
fit.
right?
Yeah.
How
What is
fit
this,
is this
this
person?
person's fitness?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask you two questions.
Mhm.
What does being healthy mean to you right now as you sit here in the chair?
So this is loaded. For me, I do want to have a healthy physical body.
Yep.
And I am a mental health professional.
Shocking.
And so I think often about, am I also a person who can say I have a certain level of mental health?
Yeah.
I don't always very intentionally focus on either of those
Sure.
things. I try a lot in some ways, more in others, but I would like to think that because I'm at least sometimes intentional about it, I can say there are certain things that I do that make me physically healthy, certain things that make me mentally healthy.
One of the things that I put in there at the end of the question was right now, because
Right.
I think that there's differences, at least for me, not to speak for you, as I've gone through my life, I think health has looked different to me.
Mm.
There's that invulnerability aspect of it where early on in life did things that I probably wouldn't do today just because I didn't think I was going to hurt myself. But also, I didn't think about the fragility of life in the same
Mhm.
way and the importance of physical health in my desire to have longevity, right? And I think
Yeah.
that that wasn't something that I thought about early on in life, and maybe that was something that was triggered by my dad's passing. Maybe that was something that was
Mhm.
triggered by seeing myself not able to do the same things that I used to do. I can't eat the same as I used to and look the same as I wanted to. When I was in high school and I was running cross country, and I would eat a pound of pasta for dinner, and then I would go for a run. Right, there was a difference there. If I eat a pound of pasta now, first off, that would be a massive challenge. But if I eat a pound of pasta right now, that's going to have a different impact than it did earlier on in my life, right? So I think that that time frame of it too is in terms of what health looks like. And then the other thing that has come into it for me, maybe it's because of this podcast, is the mental fitness part of it, right?
Yeah.
That emotional and mental fitness part of it that I think plays a huge role. One of the things that I've seen for myself is in some ways the mental fitness aspect of it almost has been holding a lock and a key to the physical fitness part where I haven't been able to
Mhm.
get out of my head. We talked about this a little bit, right? Getting
Yeah.
back on the bike. And, it's that there's probably nothing physically keeping me from doing XYZ, but there's that lock mentally because I don't have that mental fitness built up yet that's not allowing me to break through into there. So
Yeah.
I think there's much more of a connection between mental fitness and
Yeah.
physical fitness.
It's interesting what you're talking about with this lock because I'm thinking about different times in my life where I truly believe that throughout my life I have continued to become more mentally healthy,
Hmm.
mostly just because of awareness. I had very little awareness of what mental health looks like early on in my life. I hope that as I matured, that became more obvious to me. But then again, as a mental health professional, it's something that I started to look at a lot more clearly. And when I think throughout my life and I think about physical health and fitness, it's much more of a fluctuation.
Yeah.
And I can think about times in my life where I was at my peak physical fitness,
Hmm.
and I think I was more mentally healthy in those times
Absolutely.
than others.
I think that lock and key thing goes both
Right.
directions for sure.
Yeah, but maybe not exactly back and forth because I think gaining physical fitness is a helpful part of the mental health journey. I don't think you can be at your full best mental health self
Hmm.
if there isn't a level of fitness that you're using
I would agree.
holistically, I think you can be at your peak physical health without all of your mental health, though. And so that's,
Agree.
I'm like
Yeah,
starting to
it's a
think
hard
about that
thing. Yeah,
moment.
it's a hard kind of
Yeah.
spider web to break up. But I think I agree with you completely. And I think from a biological perspective, a lot of that makes sense. There are specific hormones in our bodies
Yeah.
that are released in relation to different situations. There is a true biological connection that goes into play there when I think of what it looks like to be healthy and what it looks like to be physically fit. Now, for me, physical fitness looks like the ability to do the things that I want to do every single day without being uncomfortable, without being in a place where I feel like I can't do that. So it's interacting with my daughters. It's being able to run around, pick them up, throw them over my shoulder, all the things that we do every single day. It's also the things and the goals that I set out for myself. A few years back, we set out and we did a sprint group triathlon thing together, right? And those were things that we set goals for ourselves to go and do. And so for me, it's being able to reach the goals that I set for myself at that specific time. It's making sure that I'm maintaining myself. I'm going to say 15 years ago in college, I probably wouldn't want to be at the same body weight that I am now that I was then, just because of the different things that were going on in my life. And so physical fitness, I think our definition of it changes as our life situation changes.
Yeah.
We continue to hold ourselves to the same exact standard as maybe we held ourselves to at different times in our lives. I think maybe that can become a challenge for us. And we're going to get to the why is it harder here.
But I
for
think
sure.
what you're talking about now is what you're really saying is this is how physical fitness connects to mental health again, because you're saying sometimes the way my body looks, the way my body feels, the things my body has the capacity to do are going to make me feel, you didn't say these words, but I'm thinking more confident, more secure in myself,
fulfilled.
more fulfilled. And that then moves back into mental health.
Yeah.
So yes, that probably changes throughout our lives as well, based on our physical health, but our need for mental health. We can't say, oh, well, I'm busier now, so I just should be less mental healthy also.
Yeah.
I might argue maybe that does happen for a lot of people, but that's where it connects back up again. Can I create different standards and limitations that can make me feel maybe less shame for my body or more confident in what I am, even though throughout my life, my body has also changed and my fitness level has changed. And so I like that you brought that up. You're starting to talk about another part of this though. So I want to actually go into that now.
Yeah.
We just talked about fitness. Fitness is the physical activity, exercise side of things. And you talked about chemicals in our bodies and the benefits of that and how that connects to this overarching idea of health. A main part of this conversation as well is why it doesn't always happen at the levels that we might want it to, because it can be really hard.
Yeah.
And I love that you brought up the triathlon, that we kind of tag teamed a triathlon, and it kind of stuck in my head for a few years. Over the last 2 years, I've actually done a triathlon. It's a sprint to the shortest level, but I had this goal for myself and I said, I would like to compete in I would like to complete a triathlon, not compete in a triathlon. And I did it the first time and I loved it. And so I did it again. But another reason that I decided to sign up for a triathlon is because I knew, however important physical fitness is to me and my physical health is to me, I have a challenge to maintain the actions that show how important it is on a regular basis. And I found a cheat code for myself. I imagine other people might have similar experiences to this, but I can stay on top of my exercise routine when I have signed up for some sort of competition or challenge that I need to complete. I've done a lot of Spartan races in my life, and I remember getting so on top of what I wanted to be doing to train for that, to eat for that, all of it in order to get ready. And as life went on, I've learned that the gaps in between, the graph dips way
down,
way lower. Actually, over the last few years, down to nothing.
Yeah.
I completed my first triathlon. I was doing some version of swimming, biking, or running, or combination of them at high intensity levels 3 to 5 times a week. The week after, I did it 0 times.
Yeah.
And every week after that, I did it 0 times until I signed up for the next one. And all of a sudden, I was back up to 3 and then back up to 5. And I said, after the second, I said, I'm going to stick to something this time. So I got on my bike once a week until it was cold enough that I said, and so it's beautiful out now.
Right.
I haven't gotten back on because I haven't signed up yet. We are in sign up season.
So let's do this. Let's give ourselves a challenge, because I'm very much like you. If I have something that I have signed up for, made a commitment for, not only a commitment, but a financial commitment as well.
Yeah.
Right. Let's challenge ourselves and figure out something that we can sign up for that makes sense for where we are physically in our bodies today. And it may be something different, which is fine. I'd love to do it with you. But I think having that thing to motivate ourselves to get to that point,
Yeah.
I'm very much with you of that's really helpful, because I know for me that sometimes the hardest thing is taking that first step and actually exercising. Right? We talked about this on earlier episodes of like, it's not the getting out part that makes you want to do it again. It's how you feel afterwards.
Yeah.
I very much feel that this is really hard. And then I get back from my bike ride, I'm like, isn't that hard? Why wasn't I doing
right,
this?
and even in the moments where it feels hard,
Mhm.
you're not saying, "Oh, I wish I wasn't doing this." You're saying, "Ooh, feel the burn." Right? Like it
Exactly.
actually kind of feels nice. And I remember when I would weight train a lot, when I would do something newer or at a higher intensity, I'd be sore for a few days after. Oh, it feels nice
feels
to be
good to be
sore.
sore.
Right? Like
Yeah.
even the pain isn't
Yeah.
as scary when you're doing it as beforehand, which I think that goes back to why can this be so hard? It makes me think of growing up. We had a pool in our backyard.
Okay.
And when it was a little bit too early to be swim season, it doesn't matter because you have a pool in your backyard and you're a kid and you want to go in. But I remember standing at the edge, sometimes for a long time, knowing it always feels fine once you've submerged your entire body in lama lap.
But right now it's really cold,
But
right?
I am so scared to do this first step. And then I finally get into midair and there's relief because I know however much this is about to suck, I'm finally done with the, am I going to do it? Am I going to do it? Am I going to do it phase?
So I think part of that, talk about dopamine, it's your body's way of saying, oh, this feels really good.
Yeah.
One of the things that I do is even inside of an individual workout. So I'm on a bike ride. My ultimate goal, my bike ride to go 40, 50 miles, whatever that is for the day. Inside of that bike ride, what I'll do is when I used to live back in Missouri, Georgia, at least where we are, and not a whole lot of mountains and hills, but your neighborhood's pretty hilly.
Yeah.
It was, I'm going to stay seated in the saddle until I get to the top of this hill and not stand. So you set these little tiny goals
Yeah.
inside of a workout, which allows for that dopamine release to happen continually throughout the workout, as opposed to just having that massive dopamine release at the end, which you probably still have, that says, I did it.
But
I completed it.
Yeah. I even want to just take a step back for a second, because even looking at what we are doing right now, we opened up this small section as why is it challenging to do this? And we started talking about some of the ways that we do it. And I know I'm getting really excited and I'm watching you and I'm watching you and you're like, yeah, and here are the things that I do. And I do these little segments so I can push myself and build this. Even just talking about the moments where it does happen is exciting and it builds energy. And just that barrier of entry can be so hard, especially with how you're talking about dopamine, with how things are structured in our society right now. There's way easier ways to seek dopamine, and they for sure don't have the same payoff. You for sure wouldn't be sitting here going, oh my gosh, I was sitting on Instagram for 80 minutes yesterday. And no, you don't feel as good, but it's so much easier. You pull up your phone and you just get rolling, versus knowing I have to find the time, I have to change, I have to have hydrated and eaten the right food, and I have to shower after, and I have, they boom, 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 you have to go. However, I just said, and I was on Instagram, you could be lost in a dopamine trap for
a while,
half an hour, several hours, and not realize you didn't carve out the time for that. But it's still taking up the same amount of time, and it for sure doesn't have the same payoff as what we're talking about here. And I feel like that just speaks so much to the challenge of this, why it is just so hard for a lot of people to get things rolling with that.
So I want to ask you a question as a therapist, right? I talk a little bit about the mental health and that key, that unlock, whatever you want to call it. I've seen, whether it's professional athletes, whether it's your friends, family members, that sometimes depression can be a big block in
Mm.
getting yourself to that place to start on that physical fitness journey.
Yeah.
I also have seen physical fitness be a really good opportunity to help people work with their depression and through their depression.
Yeah. That's actually one of the biggest
Tools?
biggest traps. I think you're naming it in such a good way. And I know we talked about, I think in our very first episode, that depression is often something that I struggle with, not necessarily at very high levels, but for sure impacts my life. And that's a part of when I think of exercise too, how powerful that is. The trap is with depression. Depression tells you you don't have it. You can't do
Right.
that. Just conserve your energy. Nothing is that worth it right now. You're not going to be able to do that. And exercise is for sure not something that you're going to do in a time like that.
Exercise is extra.
And
Yeah.
exercise is for sure one of the best ways to maintain your mental health
Flip that
and
narrative a little bit, yeah.
to not be as impacted by depression. That's a hard trap to be in. The exact antidote to this thing I'm struggling with is the exact thing I'm struggling with is telling me not to do right now.
Yeah, I remember it was the Olympics. Simone Biles
Mhm.
was talking about her mental health challenges, around competition. And again, I am not an expert on Simone Biles' mental health, but I do remember that there was a distinct connection. And there was a time where she said, the thing that I love the most was causing me the most challenge, most pain. I
Yeah.
don't know the exact phrasing, so I don't want to make a quote there. But I thought that was really interesting. And when I kept listening to her talk and then reading the rest of the story, it was not necessarily the thing that she loved, but it was what was built around it. Right. And obviously, and I'm going to speak for you. Both of us are not at Simone Biles' level on any individual sport.
Thank you for not speaking for me,
Yeah,
Bob.
you're welcome. The pressure that she was under was very different, I think, than the pressure that maybe you feel with your depression as it relates to exercise versus where she was from a mental health perspective. But again, it was still blocking her ability to do something that she absolutely did love. Speak for myself, I love when I'm on my bike. I
Mhm.
love the feeling that I get. But again, there's this block, this challenge that again, I'm got to figure out how to work through that to get back
Yeah.
on there to say, no, but like this is going to make me love that. Right. And this is going to give me that release again. And so I think that we can sit here as people that I think are physically stable, fit, whatever you want to call it, right? We're not at the top level of our sports.
I haven't exercised since January 4th or something.
So
Bobby.
but you did go to all you can eat sushi. So,
And I was able to breathe at least a little bit after.
So this isn't just something I think that affects the way ends of the spectrum, right? The people that don't believe they can ever get off the couch and exercise, or the people that exercising what they do as a career, right?
Yeah.
This is something that I think affects everybody in the middle, in between. You talked about that it's sore and it hurts, but that's a good hurt. Good hurt isn't something I think everybody experiences. Right? I
True.
think sometimes if something hurts, again, it's our body's way of saying, "Hey, quit it." I think maybe with fitness, it's our body's way of saying, "Hey, you haven't done this in a while. Maybe
Yeah.
let's slow your roll a little bit."
Mhm.
But I also believe that if I'm trying to improve myself from, let's say, an aerobic capacity when I'm running or when I'm biking, it's got to hurt a little bit, right? You got to push yourself. You got to push those limits just a little bit so you can build that capacity. You can build that next step.
That's interesting listening to you talk about that because that makes me think of one of the challenges for me as well. I really like being able to succeed at the things that I'm doing. And I've decided succeeding is the highest level I reach.
Mhm.
But when I get back into training, I'm gonna have to start at a lower level. And that's a little like it's disappointing and it hurts more and all of these things that are still
I think that's
barriers to entry.
That's a huge point of,
Yeah.
well, I used to could do this, used to could. That is a Southern.
I used to be able to do this.
I used to could do this. Why can't I do it now? I used to be able to run the 5K in X amount of time. Why is it taking me double the amount of time to do that? Right. And that's just, again, there's
Right.
a
And the answer to that
confluence of
is,
factors.
well, if you keep working hard, you'll get back. but our brains don't say, good, so I'm going to work even harder. It's like,
Right.
well, I'm not. And so that's making it hard
Right.
for me.
And
And
it hurts.
right. But you named something really important also earlier on in this section, because you talked about, oh, well, maybe we need to challenge each other here. And I bring this up now because we are talking about the big challenges of even getting started and maintaining something. This feels like one of those cycles as well. Probably the more you are utilizing a support system, the more you are trying to do something together, the more likely you're going to be able to succeed at that. Also, the more you succeed at it, the more you're connecting with other people. And that is also helping you. Going back to mental health again, one of the things that I find so important I'm talking about in mental health is what are the ways you're showing up in your system. And even the name of the practice that myself and the co-founder created is the Relationship House. It wasn't like Atlanta therapy or anything like we wanted it to embody what really matters to us. And it's the Relationship House, not necessarily even because we see couples, but because everyone is a part of some version of a relationship.
Yeah.
And if you are noticing, how do I show up in my relationship? How do other people show up in those relationships in a way that can be supportive of each other? All we're doing is getting stronger. And all we're doing is having more of a chance to succeed at these things we want. All we're doing is increasing our health, for sure, mental health, but this is where it also
Physical part.
connects to the physical part. I love the way that connected before we ended that section.
I'll give you one more example. That I listened to a podcast recently with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And he was talking about in his early days when he was doing the bodybuilding, the Mr. Olympia competitions. He was talking about how when he would work out and he would lift, what his lifting experiences looked like when he was doing it independently. And then when he was working with others, and he brought up Lou Ferrigno as one of his workout buddies, the old Hulk. And he said that they pushed each other. In those workouts, he knew that two things were going to happen. He was going to hit his max PRs, his personal records, and he was also going to push Lou to do the same thing. And I think that that's where, again, that together aspect of it, maybe we don't need to push ourselves to reach those PRs, but if you've got that support system to lean on, I think that's where, for me, it helps to see where those benefits could come from.
Yeah, I love that. We're talking about the challenges. We're starting to talk a little bit about some of the ways that you can thrive if you're finding the right ways to connect with other people. Let's actually start talking about what are some of the benefits that you can get from focusing on fitness. And of course, we talked about the endorphins and dopamine and decrease in cortisol at high level. But now let's really get into that, because there are so many benefits from this. If we're able to talk about those and think about those, I wonder if that becomes a part of the formula in our brains that builds the motivation to actually reach for some of these goals in a more active way.
I think the physical fitness part of it allows you to be more of your whole self, right? So what do I mean by that is I can do more of what I want to do when I'm physically fit than when I'm not physically fit.
Yeah. So do like an annoying therapist thing. I want to really understand your language right now.
Should I lay on the couch?
Yeah. Tell me how that makes you feel, Bobby. You said to be more of yourself. I think the way I heard that is you want to be able to access more of your real self.
Okay. Yeah.
Like yourself is in there somewhere.
Yeah.
But I get to I have more, it's more available to me.
I agree. Yes. Yes.
I
That's
love
it. So
that.
a couple of days ago, I don't know if your daughter does this. My daughter has been obsessed with doing cartwheels recently.
Oh my gosh. Yes. The same.
Everywhere. So I don't know if this is like in the first grade curriculum in Georgia or whatever. Now she is killing it with the cartwheels, one-handed cartwheels, round off all the things. And she asked me the other day, Daddy, you do a cartwheel. I did a cartwheel. I had not done a cartwheel. Guys, call it 20 years. At least I don't remember the last time I did a cartwheel. I'm sure it did not look good, but I did it. And I thought to myself afterwards, I can do a cartwheel.
I love that.
And it was this release of, all right, your back didn't hurt. You didn't fall on your butt. You surely looked like a complete idiot while you were doing it. But you did a cartwheel.
Right. And you found out in that moment, I have access to my body
There you go.
in a way that is available when someone who matters a lot to me
Right.
says, Daddy, do something fun with
So
me.
when you say,
And you
what does it
realize
mean?
I can show up and right, we're talking,
Nailed it.
there's lots of different ways you can show up as a
Absolutely.
father, but saying yes is a great way to be
Right.
able to do that. And you're doing something silly and fun. That's
Exactly.
a great way to show I am all in
Yeah.
as someone who cares about you. And you learn,
Cartwheel.
my body is accessible in this way. And so
Right.
that's cool to be able to think about.
Yeah. So that's what I mean when I say I could be more of myself.
Yeah,
I can
right.
do
Like
cartwheels.
what am I available for
love
in
that.
my life? And I think that that's a great way to look at this whole conversation, because we talked about decrease in cortisol. A decrease in cortisol, actually, one of the major side effects of that is better sleep.
Yep.
Everything becomes a little bit more available to you
Yeah.
when you have slept a little bit better.
Absolutely.
And that's huge.
Absolutely.
Being able to work on blood flow impacts so many parts of your body. It impacts blood flow to your brain. Now you're thinking better. Now that helps with mental health as well. Talk about other things that are important to a lot of people. Sexual health.
Yeah.
If you're increasing blood flow, that's going to help with a lot of things sexually. Also, a lot of people talk about the better their body feels, the better they think their body looks when they look in the mirror. Also, the more confidence they have when they are showing their body to someone they love. And so, right, I'm not saying this to be silly, but sexual health is actually really well connected to this.
I don't think it's silly at all. I talk about the hormones, right? That tissue is actually a very potent producer of estrogen-like compounds. There is data out there that shows increased levels of estrogen compared to men that have less body fat percentage. Now, as you were saying, you can increase your physical fitness, which in turn may potentially decrease the level of estrogen that your body is producing, allowing that level of testosterone to stay there or even to increase, allowing for that libido to increase. Just from a biological perspective, this all plays together and this all comes together in a real strong way. And I think that then, as you think about, okay, well, the physical fitness allowed me to feel better about myself. It allowed my body to feel better about itself, unlocking whatever it is it wants to do. That sexual energy came back. Well, maybe that improves your mental fitness at the same time, right?
Yeah, I love you're creating even more connections for me, because you said that helps your mental health as well. It also just improved your ability to connect in your relationship, right?
Yeah.
Sex is not the only way we connect in our relationship, but it is one way that enhances connection.
Right.
Now I feel even more connected in my relationship, which means now I'm showing up even in a different way, and they're showing up for me in a more effective way. That it really does have this cascading positive effect.
Yeah.
I think that can be so important. And to now bringing it into the relationship side of things, a lot of times in exercise, there are also connections that are happening. I know that not everybody works out in gyms. It's not actually something I do anymore, but I used to. And there was this camaraderie and this teamwork, and even just this idea of, we know all our bodies can do different things, and we all set out maybe to complete the same workout. It's going to happen at different times. We're going to do it at different levels of fitness, but we're still going to look to the other person and not say, oh, I'm better. We're going to say, you got this. Go. I finished a little bit early. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to cheer you on, because there's connection that can happen when we're all trying to achieve the same thing. When doing that with fitness, that's right. They're killing a whole bunch of birds with one stone.
And I think now the physical fitness industry, at least from my perspective, is embracing that a little bit more, right? When I think back to when I was a kid, younger, and I was starting to have those first inklings of I want to go to a gym and work out, I was not this very muscular kid. I was very skinny, very lanky, not muscular. I weaseled that into competitive running and swimming and those things. I fit my body type into the sports that I was doing, but I had anxiety and I had this kind of weird, I didn't want to go to a gym because I knew I couldn't lift the same weights. I think as I look at it now, I mean, there's so many of these things that the industry has leaned into pretty heavily that allows that camaraderie, even when you are alone, right? I think one of them that I go to is like the Peloton workouts, where you have your login, you sign in, and the coach calls you out. Oh, well, this person's logging in. So you may be in your own home doing a workout by yourself, but you're working out with 1,000 other people around you.
Yeah. I love that. Just like kind of adding it to the list, right? If we had to think of a list now, release of tension, increased confidence in what your body can do. There's increased self-esteem because of that. Now your relationships can be impacted in a positive way. Now you're even more sexually healthy. Now there's more blood flow to your brain. Now you're connecting with other people, even in what you're doing, the togetherness aspect of that. And likely that's half the list, right? We could keep going. That
absolutely.
There's just so much that can be so powerful in all of this. So I love that we were able to take the time to dive a little bit deeply, right? I feel like there's so much more we could talk about around fitness, but just being able to talk about what we did today, it makes a lot of sense. And honestly, for me, it was nice to get excited about like thinking about that version of me who sometimes is
right. Well, it's getting nice outside again,
Yeah.
Let's get out there, do it. It gives you that, I would say energized, right?
Yeah.
That's the word I was looking for.
For sure. I love that.
A lot of energy there.
Yeah. So that was good. That's our fitness as it connects to health. We're going to finish up the episode here again with our new Ask a Therapist versus asking a regular guy.
Yeah.
I'm going to shift this one a little bit now.
Let's do it.
It's ask a therapist versus ask someone who specializes in working with horses.
There we go. I love it. Okay.
Because something really important came up for me this week, and I just had to take the opportunity here. A 7-year-old taught me something that she learned from another 7-year-old, which
means it's true.
One thing I have learned is generally trust the kids. They know things. When one of them says to me, "Hey, do you remember when this and this and this and this and this?" And I will think, "No." I have learned you say no, but I am sure that has happened exactly the way you just said it because your memory is a steel trap. And so maybe this is completely true. But the question I'd like to pose today is, when you're feeding a horse, is it important not to keep your fingers out because your fingers look like carrots and they're going to try to eat them? I've told you, hard-hitting questions here.
Hard-hitting. Do you want a regular guy this one first?
Oh, yeah. I am the regular guy.
Let's regular guy this one.
There's just a part of me that says, come on, like, a horse is not going to eat your finger because it is slightly shaped like a carrot. They probably have some sense of smell. They've seen fingers before. I don't know, man. All right.
We're going to start with a couple of things. One, you may not think this. Horses can be very particular with their lips in the sense of what they want to eat and what they don't eat. You can feed a horse pelleted feed and you could put some meds in there that the horse needs to be taking. They can sift out what they want to eat and what they don't want to eat.
Like eyes closed.
Hold that thought. Yes, with just their lips. They can be very, very particular. They have a very keen sense of taste. They have preferences for certain things. But I think more importantly for this question, horses are prey animals, okay? And as such, horses have an incredible field of vision. In fact, they can see almost all the way around their body, except for right below their nose and right behind their head. Okay. So why do I bring this up? Yeah. They can't see your fingers, right? Where their eyes are on the sides of their heads, they can't see your fingers. I don't think that you would potentially get bitten by a horse because they think your fingers are carrots. I think in the situation where you're feeding a horse and we say, keep your hand flat, and my daughters will keep their fingers up, horses get very excited about eating treats. Horses get very excited about eating things out of your hands because oftentimes that means it's a treat. And they just eat quickly. And so it may not be because your fingers look like carrots.
Oh, yeah.
It's 100% not because horses enjoy the taste of your fingers. It's probably just because your fingers got in the way of them eating.
I love that.
And they have very strong teeth and very strong jaws. And when you get bit by a horse, you know it. You'll feel it. Horses do bite in aggressive nature. It's something they do to other horses. It's something they do to people when they're grumpy with you. However, getting your fingers caught in a horse's mouth, it's because they're not paying attention. Okay. And you're not paying attention just as well.
Again, I think this was just very important for me. I'm realizing that what's really happening in this is two-sided. It's one, you're about to feed a horse and you're a child. So we have to give you a good way to remember to hold your hand still. Listen. And if we tell you, don't make your fingers into carrots so they don't eat the carrots off of your hand, I think that makes sense. But I think the other side too is if you keep your fingers out, they are not going to chomp one of your fingers off, but you're a kid, so you're going to get spooked and you're going to do something and then the horse is going to So you see, there's just like a whole understanding here that was
the
very
other part of
important.
this too is horses also, like, people have to learn about treats, right? So in my previous job, I worked at a research farm and we had 80 research horses. And because they were research horses, many of these horses had never experienced treats in the past, right? Because they were on specific diets, we were testing specific things. And I'll never forget, my oldest daughter came out to the farm with me and she wanted to give some treats to one of the horses. And I said, sure, yeah, the horse is on a trial right now. Its diet wasn't being very specifically tailored. I said, sure, let's go ahead and we'll give a treat. And it was a horse treat. Designed for horses, manufactured for horses. This horse had never in its life taken a treat from a person's hand before. It had never eaten from a person's hand before. All it did was it ate out of a bucket. So my daughter went up to give the horse a treat and the horse looked at her and then walked away because the horse didn't know what it meant
Like,
when a little person was
kids and treats that have never been connected before.
Exactly. So again, I think, like you said, there's a lot we can connect here. Okay. Give your horse a treat.
So it's more how we treat children, right? That's why I think this is actually a great question to ask. It's like how we treat children.
Never thought about a child component.
Yeah, but that's exactly what I'm hearing. Get kids to remember it and also get them to not be spooked.
Bingo. I love it. Well, that was fun.
Thank you.
I enjoyed that.
This is good.
So if you've got any ask a regular person, ask a therapist questions, if you've got any ask an equine nutritionist question, I think it was fun to go the other direction here too.
That was good. I like that.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun.
So yeah, definitely find us on Man Up Together Podcast on Instagram. Also, you can email us questions at manuptogetherpodcast.com. Also, feel free to just comment on our videos on YouTube because we will be checking that and responding to that. And we do love that people have offered some discourse for us to be looking at together. It was great to be able to talk about eating massive amounts of food. It was great to be able to talk about people maybe wanting to be divisive or wanting to start conversations with us about what it means to be a man and to apologize, fitness and health, horses and finger carrots. This was a good one.
I love it. Awesome. Well, thanks.
Yeah. And so me and Bobby are actually now going to go and each eat 1 pound of pasta and sign up for a triathlon. So we will see you next week when we continue to try and man up together.
Sounds good.
The Man Up Together podcast was produced and edited by Alex Peskin and Bobby Jacobs. Special thank you to our wives, family, friends, and coworkers who have supported us in so many ways throughout this process. You can find us on Instagram at Man Up Together Podcast, and you can email us at questions@manuptogetherpodcast.com. If you are interested in joining us on this journey, please like, subscribe, and share this with someone you care about. Thank you for listening. See you next week.